Hey everyone, my name is Michael Connor Huff and I will be presenting to you the Catholic Church of Ireland. This is the same PowerPoint with a little bit more information of what I was supposed to be presenting after spring break, but obviously I never got the chance to, so here I am presenting it. So to start, we're going to do a little bit of an overview with how everything's going to be presented. We start with Irish education, talk a little bit about that, going into healthcare, and then kind of tailing off of healthcare, I'm going to kind of go into talking about the Magdalene Laundries, what it is, kind of how did it happen, how those females got there involved in the Magdalene Laundries, and then kind of what the conditions were for them working in those kind of environments. Now with Irish education, there is a whole lot of stuff kind of going into it. The Catholic Church played a pretty major role in the education in Ireland, mainly between the 19th and 20th century. Now, it can be argued that for the same reason for the churches, they had to control because of the education systems that were colonized by England very, very early on. So the main reason that they have the control is simply because they're tailed off of the England ways of how they did things. There was a little bit of clash between the two churches of Ireland, the Church of Ireland itself, as well as the Catholic Church. They were kind of in the battle over the education system. However, the Church of Ireland had power because of English rule, and that kind of helped a little bit. But the Catholic Church also had power that they kind of used to defect the influences of the English themselves. So continuing on with the Irish education, it was kind of known that the control of the education system used to belong to the Protestant Church in the 18th century. However, the Catholics gained more power and was more favored in the Catholic Church as they wanted to establish a more denominational education. It kind of goes into that there was more of a battle for the education system as it went on for many decades, but slowly the state actually took over. And with that, even though the state took over, the church still had much determination with which policies were enforced. Although, like, the states were very much involved with the education system, the church very much still had power. Very similar to how back way, way long ago, where England, everything revolved around the church. Similar still to the time around these times, the 19th, 20th century, that the church still had a very firm grasp on the politics and policies that happened within Ireland. So going into our next topic with healthcare, it was very much a territorial battle between the government and the church. The kind of the tricky part was is that the church still had a much influence and power because of that influence from England. The church grabbed a lot of stuff over there in England and it kind of carried over to tradition to Ireland itself. The instructions of the Catholic Church also determined that the state should only step into family complications when the family failed their part in helping their own. When I say that, I basically mean that with family competition, whether it's family abuse or family drama or whatever it may be, the church did not feel that the state should step into those matters. It should be within the families, and if anything, the church should also help out. So the church felt that that was kind of their part that they needed to bring on and try to do their own thing. So since the religious beliefs governed by many aspects of the state, this kind of continued on even after Ireland became independent. Ireland, although they became independent from England, it didn't necessarily mean that they became independent to their customs, such as the church kind of having their hand in almost everything within the regular aspect of Irish life. So continuing on to healthcare, there was a lot of proposals that they wanted, a lot of proposals that kind of hopefully helped the country of Ireland, but it didn't exactly fall through. One of them being the National Health Service, which was basically a healthcare system founded in England, actually, and that was supposedly to supply free universal services. But it was obviously failed because of the opposition from the Catholic Church and actually some others. So it kind of brings me into our next and pretty much the big topic of the Catholic Church of Ireland is a thing called the Magdalene Laundries, which is considered one of the biggest scandals of the Catholic Church of all time. So the Magdalene Laundries, what is it? So the Magdalene Laundries and or Magdalene Asylums were organizations that were run by the Catholic Church from the 18th to 20th century. They were created to house an estimation of 30,000 women that were confined to those asylums. Now, these women were forced to carry out rough labor and were labeled as mentally ill. Now, these women, as some people may not know, were considered fallen women. When they say fallen women, that basically means to the eyes of the church, that these were women who were considered ungrateful to God by the church and have lost their innocence. This could be from any variation of things, but the mainly common ones were prostitution and women who had abortions. There are some talk that it may be for women who give up their child to adoption. And with that being said, the church also took children away from younger, more undeserving mothers if they felt that they were not fit to raise that child. It's actually a very scary thing, but it was very common back in the day that a mother would lose their child out of nowhere, not knowing that the church is actually the one to steal their child. Just kind of a little bit of a side note, if anybody is more interested to learn about them, there is a great movie about the Magdalene Laundries called The Magdalene Sisters. It was made in 2002, directed by Peter Mullen. And kind of another movie that was talking about when I said that the church kind of stole a child away. It's called Philomena. It was directed in 2013 by Stephen Frears. Just kind of a side note if you guys are actually a little more interested in that. So how did those fallen women get there? There were many different ways that they got there. A lot of them was sent by the judicial system. They were sent there because of prison sentences as a status of probation, and there were some of those that were held on remand. Females were also sent there as relocation from industrial schools, transfers from mother and baby homes. Even social workers, members of clergy, police, hospitals, psychiatric hospitals, all of them sent women to those laundries. Even some of them were victims of abuse. They were still sent there. It was just kind of the place to send these fallen women. So the conditions were pretty harsh. I cannot lie when I say that it was not a fun time to live in a laundry. They were imprisoned behind sealed doors. They were given no information on when they were going to be released. Their names were even changed upon entry, and sometimes they were just given a number. That's kind of degrading when you walk into some place, maybe not knowing what it is, and all of a sudden just be handing a number, and then that just becomes your new name. They were forced to work. They had to wash, iron, sew, basically doing a lot of just housemaid work, but at a very abusive level. It wasn't pleasant for them. They received no form of compensation. It wasn't anything to be proud of. So it's kind of elaborating on the Church of Ireland. They very much had their hand in everything, whether it was from the education system, healthcare system, trying to do justice by the judicial system, like the Magdalene Laundry. They basically had their hand in everything. Even to this day, even in present day, they still have their hand in some stuff. But it's getting better from what I understand from some personal news research I've been doing. It's getting better. It's just getting there. So that was my presentation. Here's my works cited page, and I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you.